Is Barbie in danger?
I think what's happening with Mattel is really it's headless.
Barbie has been and will continue to be the #1 fashion doll.
The board of directors is the most incompetent I've ever seen.
When you look at the Barbie brand is as popular as it's ever been.
Barbie's had a long history as a bestseller for many, many years, but seems to have hit a rough patch. Why?
Mattel at one time was the iconic foundation of the toy business, and I think it's the beginning to an end of Mattel.
I think Mattel has always been the leader in dolls, and I think it will continue to be.
First thing I would do is fire the whole board and the management board. They are frankly useless.
The tough patch that's often talked about sometimes is overshadowed by the fact that she is the #1 doll and the #1 brand for girls.
If I was on the other side, I would not hire any of these people.
We've been around for 48 years, and I would argue that the retirement party would not be Barbie's if there is one.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. In the right-hand corner, we have Mattel, who introduced us to the icon that is Barbie, net worth up to $8.3 billion. And on the left-hand corner, we have MGA, who brought us the Y2K staple that is Bratz, net worth up to $2 billion. Mattel versus MGA, or should we say Barbie versus Bratz? This was a true war over plagiarized ideas that turned into a decade-long court battle between the two industry toy giants, that is MGA and Mattel. If this was a sci-fi movie, I would definitely categorize this as the Star Wars of the toy industry and the doll community. And quite frankly, the drama in this case will shock you. Hi Bratz Party Pack, what's up? It's your girl Brandy, and welcome back to my channel where we like to talk all things Bratz, MGA Entertainment, and so much more. Today's video is by far the most exciting video that I have ever filmed on this channel, and it's been one that I have been anticipating to film since the starting of my channel, and it is the iconic battle between two toy giants, that is MGA versus Mattel. Let's talk about this real quick. Now this is probably going to be my by far favorite video to film because of the fact that if you are a member of the doll community and when you look at the secondhand doll market, I feel like topics like this are really relative to scalpers within the community because it really defines where each company stands as a brand and how it's affected them today and the ebbs and flow of the market and why people decide to break a Felicia to be $1,000 and $1,500. It's all relative. Like, I feel like it's all connected, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Within this story, there's multiple layers of drama, controversy, and litigations on both MGA and Mattel's side. For the sake of this video and my brain cells, I am just going to focus on the court proceedings that occurred within the early 2000s and the latter end of the 2000s between MGA and Mattel, and how this decade-long court battle between the two brands affected them long-term. So that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Before we do, make sure you guys follow me on my Dollstagram at Bratz Party Pack. I would love to have you over there where I do doll unboxings and doll collector day in the life videos. So if any of that interests you, make sure you guys follow the links in the description below. Without further ado, let's get started with this video and dive into all of the drama between these two toy giants. To gain a full scope of this court battle fiasco, I thought it would be best if we start from the beginning so we can gain a full understanding of what's really going on. Now, respectively, each brand holds their own when it comes to cultural relevance and overall charting of larger movements in society and in culture. Now, when we bring up Bratz and Barbie in the same sentence, there's often a polarizing response based off of their ever-present differences, which is completely understandable because they're often put against each other. But I can honestly say that they both hold their own when it comes to being a relevant fashion doll. And my main goal of this video is to embrace their differences objectively and really see where they each went wrong as a brand. So beginning with the infamous Barbie, who was founded in 1959 by couple Ruth and Elliot Handler, which might I add, Mattel was initially a company that made picture frames and later used the scraps to create tiny miniature furniture, which eventually led them to create Barbie. It's really such such an interesting story as a whole, and I would love to talk about that in another video. Anywho, Barbie's release was very revolutionary for the toy industry at the time because during the 1950s, the main doll of choice for many young girls were baby dolls and toys that modeled after being a domesticated housewife of the sorts and being a mother. So when Barbie entered the scene, this brought a new level of play for young girls, and it really allowed girls to be able to project their future adult identity on a doll, which was not done before because during that time period, girls were told to aspire after being a mother, being a housewife, and that's it. But with Barbie, you could truly be anything you wanted to be. The sky was the limit, and from the get-go, Barbie often trailblazed, occupying spaces and jobs where women in the real world didn't even have access to yet, such as being an astronaut, a career woman, and even a doctor. She allowed young girls to reflect on their dreams and desires onto Barbie. For many young women who are often not in control of their lives, here was one area where they were. So we love that for Barbie. She continued to dominate the toy industry throughout the years, up until the year 2000, where Bratz entered the scene. During the year 2000, we entered a threshold of a century where we saw the rise of Y2K fashion, including low-rise jeans, mini skirts, and flat tummies. Although there was a lot of anxiety of what the future was going to look like, there was also a lot of optimism of the upcoming millennium. Y2K really encapsulated technology and all things futuristic. And naturally, Bratz fit perfectly within this aesthetic due to their distinctive branding, overall spunk, and flair of their characters, and not to mention the style and fashion that they all exuded. Bratz at the time of its release revolutionized the toy industry. Its multi-ethnic selling point to African American, Hispanic, and Asian audiences aided to their success. And although their features were hyper-realistic, many young girls and boys gravitated towards this doll because they felt like they could see themselves within it. And Barbie at the time, although she had a diverse color of dolls, many of them all had the same blanket Barbie face with no distinctive facial features that directly correlated with different ethnicities. Now, during this time, Barbie reportedly hit a record low in stock price, decreasing up to 43.16%. And amongst Bratz's success, Barbie failed to find her place within the doll market of Y2K fashion dolls. Overall, Barbie seemed to lack its progressive nature that it once had, and as well as its creative direction and stylistic quality. And in response to this, Barbie began developing their competitor doll, My Scene, that released in 2002. From the outskirts, it looked to be a healthy bit of competition between two brands, but something was brewing beneath the surface. Now here is when the drama comes in. So Bratz was actually founded by former employee of Mattel, Carter Bryant, and he actually developed and created the concept of Bratz while working for Mattel, and that is kind of where the rubber meets the road with the drama. Bratz really gave her a run for her money, we would say. It posed a problem for Barbie, and this is when Mattel really was like, girl, take me to court. I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm done with these games that we're playing. On April 27th, 2004, Mattel filed a state court complaint against the former employee, Carter Bryant, alleging that Bryant breached his contractual common law duties to Mattel by failing to disclose his concept sketches and sculpts of Bratz dolls prior to leaving Mattel for MGA Entertainment Inc. on or about October 4th, year 2000. Bryant then filed a counterclaim against Mattel in the state court and filed a separate action of declaratory relief in federal court on November 2nd, 2004, on which date Bryant also removed Mattel's state court lawsuit to the federal court. MGA Entertainment intervened in Mattel's lawsuit against Bryant on December 2nd, 2004, and 4 months later filed a standalone complaint in the federal court against Mattel for trade dress infringement, dilution, unfair competition, and unjust enrichment, alleging that Mattel infringed MGA Entertainment's distinctive packaging and intervened with MGA's business relationships. Now, if y'all are asking me, was it a coincidence that since Bratz was gaining major success from their brands, Mattel all of a sudden came out of the woodwork and was like, hold up, sis, you owe me some financial compensation?
Is it a coincidence? I ask you, is it a coincidence?
Was it a coincidence? I think not, but I'll let you guys leave your thoughts down below. Anywho, let's get back into the tea. After a decade of litigation, a federal jury sided with Mattel and awarded them $100 million in damages in a federal copyright lawsuit that pitted Barbie against MGA Entertainment. But the verdict was later overturned and the case went back for a retrial in 2011. The jury then rejected Mattel's claim and instead awarded damages to MGA, who alleged that Mattel hired people to spy on its toy design and marketing plans and stole its trade secrets. Mattel, in result, then filed motions asking for a new trial, which the judge then denied. In result, over $170 million was awarded to MGA for damages in relating to the trade secrets. MGA and its CEO Isaac Larian also got more than $137 million for copyright infringement breaches of contracts and other issues. But what I think is interesting to note here is that although this seems like a big payday for Isaac Larian and the MGA brand, it wasn't until 6 years later would the Bratz brand be discontinued in 2016. And in an unexpected turn of events for a brand that said that they wouldn't be going anywhere in the name of Isaac Larian, now they would later relaunch their brand in the autumn of 2018, in addition to announcing a collaboration with fashion designer Hayden Williams. I feel like Isaac Larian, throughout this entire process, which we're not going to get into the details of who he is as an individual because that is for another video, but the mouth he has is reckless, and I do think that he could have spoken too soon on the Bratz brand as a whole. Of course they have Rainbow High, and of course they have OMG dolls, so I do feel like MGA is definitely still winning and they're definitely still relevant. But what I will say is that for the Bratz brand, this definitely affected them, I would say, in a negative way, because it looks like they never really came back from the ultimate success that they created in the early 2000s. They're not the #1 choice of dolls when it comes to young girls, in my opinion. I feel like young girls right now are loving Rainbow High and they're loving the OMG dolls, and they're into that now. So I don't think Bratz will ever be up to the level of success that they once were at, and I think that this court drama definitely has a lot to do with it. But on the contrary, all the while this was happening, Barbie began to revitalize the stage of her brand and showcasing her belief in the power of representation. They added over 30 plus skin tones, 94 plus hairstyles, and 9 different body types, including those with disabilities, which was a major milestone for the brand, who had often been accused of setting a negative beauty standard for young girls. Although it was a steady evolution for the brand, in retrospect, the MGA feud allowed Barbie to create a more innovative and inclusive product for all. This is not to say that MGA is not a successful brand today. That is by far the truth. They are still very successful, but I would say in different ways. When it comes to fashion and overall aesthetically appealing lines, I feel like MGA executes that so well with their Rainbow High line. Whereas Barbie does a great job with representation and educating people about different cultures, but I don't feel like her recent lines are my favorite stylistically. And this is not to say that they look bad, but you can definitely tell how they took reference from MGA and a lot of their fashion lines to create theirs. And MGA isn't the most perfect brand when it comes to representation either. They are now as of recent years, but honestly, it kind of felt like they were dragging their feet to add their first black and darker skin tone characters to their line. And all in all, there's definitely pros and cons that still affect them both as brands. So that is basically it with this deep dive and how I feel like it affected them each as a brand. But what do you all think? Who do you think is still successful? Do you think Barbie is more successful, or do you think Bratz is more successful? Obviously, in my opinion, the proof is in the pudding. Barbie is more successful when it comes to their relevance, and they just still, people still like Barbie core, like this, she's just still relevant. Whereas Bratz, it just depends on the wave of the trends, if they can ride it or not. Please comment down below which side you're on. Are you Mattel or MGA, or are you Barbie versus Bratz? I would love to know in the comments below. And until next time, guys, I will see you all in my next video. Bye, guys.
Everybody now, time to show the whole world what we're all about. We're the girls with a passion for fashion. Ooh, Bratz, they'll always be there for each other.